And we are live and you can share.
Yay, good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Let's see.
So we're just going to give some folks some time to come in. I'm excited this morning, ladies.
Yes, ma'am, me as well.
Same here.
Listen, if you are just coming in, we usually have music. We don't have any this morning, but that's okay. We can start off with let's talk about it. Don't you want to talk about it? It's the Jspirations live show. Let's talk about it. Good morning, everyone. As you come in, welcome to the Jspirations live show. Please drop your name in the comments and where you are listening from. If this is your first time catching Jspirations live Saturday sit down, we want to know, and we are so thankful that you are joining us this morning. So we're just going to give some folks some time to come in because we are talking to two awesome young ladies this morning, and we don't want anyone to miss anything. You guys, it is Saturday Sit Down. Who will you inspire on the Jspirations live show?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and ladies, just make sure that if you are sharing and you have us on live, that you have everything turned down. We don't want any echoes. We don't want anything. We want the people to get all the juice, not the tea, but all the juice. Because we don't share tea on the Jspirations live show, but we do share some juice. So we want to make sure that everybody is getting everything that we are pouring out this morning. Good morning, Lucy Hargrove Hudson. So, you guys, I want to go ahead and get started because we like to start on time here at Jspirations Live. So, my name is Jo Shalon, also known as Mrs. J Spire, and I am the host of the Jspirations Live show. So, Jspirations Live was birthed out of my love for people and my love for communication. As I started to spend time on social media, there were so many negative things happening. People were just sharing, all types of things. And I thought, you know what? I want to bring some sunshine. I want to bring some motivation. I want to bring some inspiration. And you guys, I started bringing some Jspiration to social media. And so, Jspirations Live was birthed, and we've been going strong since 2018. And I'm so excited about it. And I'm excited that you all have taken the time this morning to come to Saturday Sit Down and talk about who will you inspire? Because that's the goal, right? We want to make sure that we are inspiring and we are encouraging and we are motivating each other and specifically our next generation. So again, welcome. This is going to be an interactive show, you guys. We have some lovely guests this morning. So make sure that you are asking questions, you are sending us hearts, and you're sending us likes so that we can encourage the ladies as we are talking this morning. So we have just we've left Black History Month in February, and we have transitioned into Women's History Month. How important is Women's History Month? So as we celebrate and as we honor our past, right, we want to ensure that we are also acknowledging our present, right, and that we are setting the tone and we are setting the foundation to be able to encourage and motivate our legacy as well. So this morning we are talking to two special guests. You guys, I have watched these young ladies for a little while, and they have really inspired me. I know sometimes as older people, we're always looking to, be that foundation for the younger generation, right? And we're trying to make sure that we are leading them and we are guiding them in the right direction. But we also have to acknowledge what our present, right? And these young ladies, I feel like they are not only our present, but they are also our future. So this morning we have Kara Riddick and we have Shekina Mullen with us today in the J Inspirations Live studio. So welcome, ladies.
Thank
Hello. Thank you.
So I'm going to start off by giving you guys a little bit of background about our ladies. So Kara Riddick, she is a Hopewell, Virginia native. She is a graduate of Hopewell High School. She earned her bachelor's and her master's degrees in speech language pathology from Old Dominion University. She is the class of 2007 and the class of 2009. Kara is currently a Virginia licensed speech language pathologist with the emphasis in serving pediatric population. That Kara, you didn't have to write it like that. That was a tongue tie. From the ages of birth to 21, and she has been doing this for the past 14 years. Then we also have Miss Shekina Mullen. She's an HBCU graduate of North Carolina A&T State University. She has her bachelor's degree in sports science. She is currently furthering her education as an MBA candidate with the concentration in marketing at Louisiana State University, Shreveport. She currently works as an office manager, and Shekina is a serial entrepreneur. So, ladies, welcome
Yeah.
to the show.
Thank you.
So, you guys, this morning, the topic of our show is our Saturday sit down. And today we are talking about who inspires you. In this conversation, we are going to be talking about careers. We're going to be talking about who inspires you. And we also are going to be talking about legacy. I wanted to start off by talking a little bit about careers. So, as you know, little girls, most of us, well, people in general, but you know how we are as little girls. Little girls spend a lot of time when we're younger sitting and talking about what we want to be when we grow up. And I know for me, growing up, I saw a lot of people that looked like me, but they were teachers. And so that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a teacher because a lot of people around me were teachers. Shekina, I'm going to start with you. When you were a little lady, you were a little girl, what did you want to be when you grew up?
For me, I always knew I wanted to do something in medicine. So that was my first passion. I loved sports, so I was like, why not combine the two and do sports science for my first bachelor's degree? As you see, that's what I pursued. Um, it was something about taking care of people and then not always seeing representation. For me, I did have a Black doctor, but other, doctors that I would visit, like dentists and anything with injuries, it wasn't enough representation. So I wanted to fulfill that. So that's why my first career was in physical therapy. Um, so yeah, that's me. But as far as my current career, do you want me to go into that now too?
Well, I want to ask Kara first too, because once she answers this question, I really want to talk about, because you guys, you may or may not be doing what you saw yourself doing as a child. So I wanted to touch bases on that too. So Kara, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I actually wanted to work in a crime analysis lab. I wanted to do something with forensic science. And of course, that did not go that route. I started out very much so interested in chemistry, and crime scenes and things like that. But chemistry did not agree with me when I went to college. So I ended up
Sure.
doing something completely different. And my purpose found me there.
And that's a good way to start. So when we were preparing for the show, you both shared how there were other things you wanted to do when you were growing up, when you were little girls, and now you guys are on the opposite spectrum, of what, and I am too, of what I thought I would be doing when I grew up. So I wanted to ask, like, some of us, we do things because, like Shekina said, we didn't see any representation, and so we feel like we want to get out there, we want to represent who we are. And then on the other side, for me, it was like, well, I saw people, most of the people that looked like me, they were in like the nursing field or they were teachers. And growing up, like your teacher is like your first person, right, outside of your home. So you're like, I
Right.
want to be I want to be a teacher too. But tell me, as you got older and you start to really think about some of those career changes and those lifestyles, what or who helped you to kind of start to think outside of the box or the norm of what you thought you would be?
For me, during the pandemic, just before it, I worked as a physical therapy aide because I was getting ready to apply for a physical therapy school. I just knew I was going to be a DPT. And just being around the environment on a daily basis, it was more encouragement. But at the same time, as I look back and see how each of those DPTs interacted throughout the day with everyone, you could tell that it was deteriorating their passion. I didn't see it anymore. Of course, you come in, you see some fresh faces, and they're all about physical therapy, but over time, it was a redundant thing, and they just didn't have it anymore. They just didn't enjoy it. So once the pandemic hit, I had time to think about it. I was still applying for school, trying to do the GRE, and pass successfully to meet the requirements for DPT school. And as I went through that cycle, it wasn't panning out. So I figured this may not be for me. So I reflected more on that and realized that this isn't what I want. And that's when I turned to YouTube to figure out what do I want to do.
YouTube.
Let me figure out. Yeah, I did. I had to go to YouTube because this is a free resource. I can, hear from other people. So I looked up things in marketing. I've always loved entrepreneurship. I've always loved making things with my hands. That's where making the mask came into play. So I actually found a young lady. Her name is Erin, and her page is Erin on Demand. And she was doing marketing, and she just took the leap of faith, left her job, and started posting marketing content and
Now
brand
listen,
strategy.
Shekina, I don't want you to
Mhm.
go too much into those math things because that's my topic, and I'm gonna bring that up when it's time because I
Okay,
really want to delve into it, right? So don't let the cat out the bag with that one too quickly.
yes, ma'am, we will.
Karen,
Mm.
what about you?
Well, actually, as I stated earlier, I started out a chemistry major, and it did not agree with me when I was in college. And my RA at the time, who was Tiffany Owens at Old Dominion University, kind of helped me navigate through choosing another major that would accept the college credits that I already had coming into college from high school, as well as something that my general education requirements would or credits would transfer over into. And she told me about phonetics. So I signed up for the class and I fell in love with it. And phonetics is essentially a way that speech language pathologists use the International Phonetic Alphabet to transcribe other speech. So it was a very fun class. It was very interactive. It was engaging. And from that point forward, I was like, okay, this is something I could do. And then I learned more about the field and how I could actually help people. So I knew I wanted to work with, essentially, I wanted to help African American children who may not have had success in just life. And I knew this was an avenue that I could use to do that.
And I love that because, sitting here watching you all, like there's big smiles, on your faces as you're talking about your careers, and talking about how, Shekina said her passion. And then Kara said, my passion, it found me, right? And oftentimes growing up, we're looking for things that are going to pay our bills, right? Looking for things that are going to give us that foundation and make, as our parents would tell us, you have to be able to take care of yourself,
Mhm.
take care of your family, and all those things as you're growing up. And so a lot of times we end up in careers where we are not happy, right? We're sustaining everything. We're able to pay our bills, but we're going there every day, 40 hours a week, but we are not happy. So I was going to ask the question, like, thinking about there's going to be other little girls and not just girls, but we're in Women's History Month. So we're talking about women and, our careers and our legacy and who we're inspiring. But, talking to other little girls about, how to choose careers. what are you, what are you looking for, that we don't have to just do things that people expect for us to do, or we don't have to do certain jobs just because we are women, but that the world is open to us, right? And that we have choices. So let's talk about that a little bit. What would you, if a little girl right now, came up to you all and said, I want to be this, or how do I choose a career? What would you encourage them? What would you say to them?
I would definitely encourage volunteering because sometimes you don't realize what you actually want until you're doing it, doing something that you think you want. So, just getting the experience and exposure to whatever area you're interested in as early as possible is something that helped me. And I know just being around other people, you'll be able to hear exactly what they go through on a daily basis and figure out, like, this may be for me or maybe it's not. So, yeah.
Something that's huge with me is being able to shadow something or someone that you are interested in, I guess, emulating. So I would definitely encourage them to find a mentor that is someone that's already within the field that they're interested in. Shadow if they can, ask questions. I'm very intentional about doing research
Mm,
to see exactly what the job entails. And as Shekina mentioned earlier, YouTube is now available. So you can always
yeah.
go on YouTube and look up
Yeah.
videos. I know there are several professionals, I'm sure, on TikTok now too, that are
Mm,
telling you like the life in the day of, whichever profession you're looking into. And then I would
mhm,
also strongly encourage researching salaries and things like that, and education. Like, what are the requirements for you to even get to the point that you want to be at, so you can know how long you may have to go to school, which school you may have to attend, how much it's going to cost in the event that you don't get scholarships, or if you don't have like the family support to be able to provide for you to do those things. So
mm.
those are some of my recommendations.
So I was gonna say too, because you guys have and Kara's gonna get me for not using all my my appropriate language this morning, but I know how I do. It's the J Exploration Live Show. We talk about it. We talk to real people about real
Right.
things. But seriously, so you guys have things like the internet. You have YouTube. She kind of was like, I went to YouTube, and I'm like,
Hmm.
YouTube. Growing up, the older generation, we didn't have that, right? So we didn't have the opportunity to to really to shadow a lot of people. We didn't have the opportunity to do a lot of research online to find out how much money we would make, and things like that. And you guys have that opportunity. But I also wanted to touch on the financial part, right? And I wanted to touch on the money part, because a lot of us will say, I want this job because I'm going to make a lot of money, right? Or I'm
Mhm,
not going to do this job because I'm not going to make any
Hmm.
money.
mm,
And so sometimes that we make decisions that way, and then we get to a certain point in our career and we realize that just because there is money involved, again, it doesn't make us happy, right? And so what happens when we have all the money, but going to this place every day, or participating in this occupation, it's not our passion anymore. When it's
mm,
not purposeful. So how do we make that connection, or make a decision based on, okay, what's going to make me happy, and then what's going to make me a lot of money? And I know I'm
mhm,
asking y'all some hard questions this morning, but it's things that we have to think about, as women, because some of us want to have families, right? So we may have a partner that's going to, help to take care of us, take care of our homes. But marriage and family is not for everybody. So we have those individuals who are,
mm.
taking care of themselves. But how do we encourage people to make certain things a priority and make good decisions about
Mhm,
careers?
I
mm,
will say that just this reminds me of something my father always says: is all money is not good money. Um,
mhm,
so even though someone, I don't know, they may be paying something astronomical with something you probably never even imagined or conceived that you would ever be paid. Once again, going back to that research, looking at those reviews for the job to see exactly what people who actually work there are saying, how they're feeling. Yeah, I
mm,
know in speech pathology we have a lot of settings that we can work in. I'm a part of every possible professional setting group that I can find on Facebook. I don't talk a lot on them, but I am reading to see exactly what these people are experiencing, the challenges, productivity standards, how many
Mm.
clients or patients you have to see every day, how much time do you have to do paperwork, how are they with time off, are they supportive, do they encourage you to spend time with your family and to engage in self-care activities. Those are things that I've learned to focus on, and especially since shifting into the place that I'm employed with now, we have productivity standards, but fortunately I have supervisors who are very understanding and encourage appropriate like work life balance and things like that, and they listen, so that's important, and they encourage it. So
Mm. Yeah. I would say to not let money and the salary be the driving force for what you choose. That was one of the driving forces for me to choose physical therapy. I knew I would be making this range, 80 to 100 plus.
mhm.
That was like, oh, yes. Number one priority, you need to make some money. But um, it wouldn't fulfill you over time. It would deteriorate your, how you feel about working. You don't want to do something that doesn't feel like work, and it's, you'll be in a flow state, and it'll feel like I'm fulfilling my passion. So for me, I agree with Kira, going back and having a mentor, having someone that you can shadow. I would agree with that.
And it's funny because growing up, like I said, at first I always wanted to be a teacher. But you would hear people, say teachers don't make any money, right? Like you would hear adults talking about those things at school or in the community, but it's like it's what you wanted to be. And then in high school, as y'all can tell, I like to talk. In high school, Oprah Winfrey happened, right? And I started seeing this black woman on TV with, she was doing talk shows. She was making money, and she looked like me. And I thought, oh, I want to do that, right? Like that's something I want to do. And I went off to college. Not thinking that I would really be able to do it as a career. So I started off wanted to be a criminal justice major, right? And then I switched over to communication because I said, you know what, this is what I really want to do. So I'm going to set my mind to it because I've always been one of those, people that I would say, nobody tells me what to do. I want to do what I want to do. So this is what, and then I could hear my mom in the back of my mind saying, you can do this, but you always have to be able to do more than one thing. So I picked up a minor in sociology, not because I wanted to do it, but because I thought it would be easy, right? My mom had worked in healthcare, excuse me, and human services my entire life. So in my mind, I would not do that type of work, right? I saw her giving herself all the time, working really hard. We know people in human services, they don't make, a lot of money. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm never going to do it. Fast forward, like you guys were saying, volunteer and do internships. I started doing an internship in the juvenile justice system, doing some social work type things. And guess what, y'all? I fell in love with it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I fell in love with it because that was who I was, right? All of those things, that was what was in me. So even though I had these other things that I was like, I'm going to do it because I'm going to make money. I'm going to be on TV, right? I wanted people to know me. I wanted people to see me because, Oprah Winfrey was, you guys are way young, but like Oprah Winfrey was our person, right? Coming onto the scene. And I started to find out that I love sociology and I loved working in the community. But over the years, I've always also realized that I wasn't going to make any money doing it, right? But it was my passion. And so that's when I started J-Spirations too, because I said, hey, I have to also, I have to do two things that I love. We can do more than one thing. Right. And so that's why I told that story, because we can do more than one thing. And we want to encourage people to have their hands in more than one thing, to be knowledgeable, right? And that you can work and make money, and that can be your passion. And you can have more than one passion. We want people to understand that as well. So speaking of that, Shekina, this is where I wanted to talk about like those masks a little bit, right? So
Yeah.
taking the opportunity. So in the middle of COVID, and I didn't know you were trying to, think about a career change. But what
Mhm.
I saw was a young woman taking advantage of what was happening at that time and making a move. So you guys, Shekina started making masks at the beginning of the pandemic, right? Because everybody needed masks. Tell
Right.
us about that. Like, I know you started, but I had to stop you because I had
Mhm.
to bring that up because I was excited
Right.
about that. Um, tell us about, taking that opportunity
Mhm.
and, jumping out there and starting to do that.
Right. So I do listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of other inspirational speakers as yourself. And so a lot of times they tell you that entrepreneurship is all about timing. So I did take advantage of the time, um, and not in a bad way, because initially it was something like, I don't want to go and while people are vulnerable right now and ask for their money to take care of this, that, and the third that they're already taken care of. And also, can you buy my mask for $8? Like, so it did take some encouragement from family. My aunt, she was calling me. She was calling my cousin, who's her daughter, also. And Nicole is on live, so thank you for showing up, Nicole. Um, but she was encouraged both of us because we picked up that skill from our grandmother to make things with a sewing machine. So she said, "We need y'all right now." So then it clicked. Like, okay, this is a need. So let me try to service this need. So as an entrepreneur, that's something that you're always searching for. What's the new need and how can I service it? And then timing just aligned for me to do that. So that's where I just put my talents and skills to the best of my ability and created these masks. And I got droves of support. Thank you so much, Joshalon, for ordering several masks from me and others that are on live right now.
Listen, I was excited. I was like, who is she and what is she doing? She's like doing all these things. I thought, Amber put that, yes, we have to, we have to take advantage of the opportunities, that's around us. And
Mhm.
Kara, I heard you say, we ask questions. The first thing that you say, you talk about, like, and Shekina said it too, but you guys both were talking about like volunteering and things like that. And so, Kara, I know you are a part of a lot of, organizations, and you do a lot of volunteering. And so, you're taking advantage of those opportunities as well because, giving back to the community is important to you and supporting African American families. Tell us a little bit about that because those are opportunities that you're having, and then you're giving other people in the community those opportunities as well.
Some things I do. I am a member of an illustrious sisterhood known as Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So we do a lot of volunteering, such as like food drives and things like that. We do some of the 5K races in the area to like encourage and motivate people as they're setting goals for themselves to achieve certain goals. And something I do that is related to my field. I've also mentored up and coming Black speech language pathologist interested students in helping them navigate through selecting schools, career choices, their entrance essays for their applications. I've also mentored young people from at risk areas essentially as well to help them navigate through just life, just through being adolescents and helping them navigate through trying to figure out what it is they want to do in life and how to make good decisions and how to identify like pitfalls and things like that,
Mhm.
just in general. So those are some things that I liked to do, and those are some things that I will continue to do to make sure that people have guidance that, you know, if
Mm.
you're like a first generation college student or you come from a first like a typically a working class family, you may not have that guidance to help you navigate through some of those things. So I try to make myself available to those people who have not had that.
And you guys, I mean, listen, I want to thank you all, talking to our listeners this morning. Thank you all for coming on this morning. And as you can, as you're watching, I know you are seeing what I'm seeing. You're seeing two young ladies who are excited about the choices that they have made. Two ladies who are, paving the way. They are excited about being mentors, right, for the next generation. I said, when we talked about this, I said, you guys, we're going to talk about some things in different places, but I wanted to go ahead and jump into it, because Kara mentioned it, and I know it's very important to Shekina. And then so we're going to jump around a little bit. But Shekina, as we were talking to prepare, Shekina was talking about her HBCU experience, and I'm going here because Kara talked about her sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, and at HBCUs and things like that. Like those are the experiences that we have. And Kara talked about how she's doing all this volunteering and mentorship, but she's doing it through that organization. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in there a little bit. So I'm going to ask this question first, and that'll open up, for you guys to be able to talk about those two things. But sometimes when we're growing up, we're always talking about what we want to be. Right. And I started thinking about that this morning. We, what we want to be a teacher. We want to be a doctor. We want to be a speech language pathologist. We want to be a physical therapist. It's all these things that we want to be, but we don't talk about who we want to be. Right. And there is a difference between a what and a who, because Shekina said, she's working around these DPTs and they are DPTs, but the who that they are is what she's focusing on, right? She's looking at the folks aren't happy, things like that. When you think about, and I'm gonna try to figure out how I'm going. Y'all know when things jump in my head, I got to talk about it that way. But the who, you went to a HBCU. Do you feel like you went to a HBCU because of the who you wanted to be, or because of the what you wanted to be?
Absolutely, because of the who I wanted to be. For me, I grew up in an area that was very rural. I was one of maybe 3 Black students in upper level classes, AP classes and honors classes. So those things, it was a very close knit group of people that I only had that experience. So I wanted an experience that made me feel like I could be who I am and not have to conform or confine myself or water myself down just to fit in. I always felt like I was in competition with the next Black student at my high school, and then of course we're also competing with the other students, just to stand out, just to you know be called out for doing well in class, things like that. It felt like a competition, and I wasn't able to be myself. So me choosing the HBCU allowed me to be around other people that are doing the same exact thing. We've come from similar backgrounds, and we were at the top of our class, or maybe not, but at least we were doing the same thing. Like we're going toward higher education. So I felt like I could be myself there. And I was searching for that. Like outside of school, I could be myself. I could change my hair 50 times a week if I wanted to. And my aunts and family are not going to ask me why, what happened to your hair, things like that. Identity wise, it helped me being in the HBCU.
And Kara and I, we had a totally different experience. We talked about that when we were prepping. Kara, go ahead and share, just your experience, and I'll jump in at some point.
Well, I did attend Old Dominion University, and I found my tribe through Ebony Impact Gospel Choir while there. And also, obviously, pledging Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and then my brothers who I met at ODU as well. I'm very close knit. However, in my major, in the field of speech pathology, I'm typically like 1 or 2 or 3 tops out of, within the room is typically 3.8% Black. and the rest is either a small percentage of some other ethnic or minority group, and then the rest is predominantly Caucasian. So
Mhm.
I'm used to being one of few on the job, one of few in the room. Um, so I don't know. I would say just finding my tribe, and having that support system outside of being in those classes, and sometimes having professors say some things not directly within the major of speech pathology, but in special education when I was at ODU, hearing some things, some generalizations about just our people while
Mhm.
being in school to a class of colleagues, or I guess classmates who didn't look like us,
Mhm.
telling them that we don't value education as a whole, and knowing that these people are going into the field and they will be working with people and children who look like us, and being one of few, figuring out how can I dispel that, how can I encourage, how can I break some of those barriers down to make sure that our children have equal opportunities
Mhm.
and are looked at with the same level of respect and love
Mhm.
as someone else.
Mhm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, we're talking about that this morning because sometimes, I went to Old Dominion, as well. And I grew up in a small rural place right here, Shekina talking about it. And yeah, we had one high school, right? So
Same as
we
Hopewell.
we all grew up like, we would go to different primary school, different elementary schools, and then we called it junior high.
Mhm.
In junior high, the county would all come together in one space, so we'd all go to junior high school and we would all go to high school together. And I loved English and literature, so I was always in AP classes for that.
Mhm.
And when I started thinking about where to go to college, I wanted to go to Virginia State. First, I
Mhm.
wanted to go to Liberty. Then I wanted to go to Virginia State because you kind of fall in like what people are talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't always start to make your own decisions. You're trying to figure out where's everybody else going because, like Shekina said, you're trying to find yourself, right? Because
Mhm.
I've been in this little county where everybody knows me. And when we're younger, we don't know about like the separation or the difference or the racism or like any of those things. And as you start to get older,
Mhm.
you start to see it. I didn't even really know it existed until I was in middle school, right? The boys would start fighting, the Caucasian kids, the black boys. And I'm like, the girls are like, what's going on? Because we wasn't looking at the world like that. So when I
Mhm.
got into high school, I'm thinking, well, I've lived in this diverse county my whole life. And so I want to go to a place that's diverse, right? So that's how I ended up at ODU. But now, as an adult, realizing that I could go anywhere that I wanted to go, there
Mhm.
was going to be diversity, right? And that I could be myself because we spend so much time
Mhm.
not being ourselves. So,
Right.
like Kara said, I get to ODU and I find my tribe.
Mhm.
um, and going into that school year, we were like the largest group of African Americans who had ever gone into
Oh,
ODU,
wow.
right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I got there and I had no idea that everybody was going to be there looking like me because I thought
Mm-hmm.
diverse, and it was, and it is. But, I'm thinking, I'm not going to see a lot of people, that look like me, but it really did help to develop me into my who,
Mhm.
right? Like what you guys were saying, you were able to find yourself, you found your tribe.
Mhm.
She kind of said, I could change my hair every day because everybody else was changing their hair.
Mhm.
And that's what it looked like too. But, we want to focus on the what, but the who makes us the what,
Mhm.
right? Because anybody can go into the classroom and be a teacher, but it doesn't mean that they're a teacher. They have that title,
Right.
right? So we want to encourage, not just you all that's on here, but anybody who's going to catch the replay. And if you have young children, you have teens, to talk with them about the who and to talk with them about the what, because you are a who first. Everything that's in you, right? Those characteristics that we have, our love for people, our love for the community, wanting to be the best person that we can be and make the those good choices. The who
Mhm.
helps us to be the what. when
Yeah.
we are true to who we are. That was a tongue twister, but that's what we have to do. We have to be true to who we are. And when we're true to who we are, then the what comes, right? Because you're going to do what God has put you on this earth to do.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it at 25 or you can do it at 50, but his will is to be done. You're going to be the who and the what
Mm-hmm.
that he called you to be. Um,
Right.
I wanted to jump in a little bit about who inspires you. Right,
Mm-hmm.
you guys talked a lot about you wanting to inspire people and what you're doing in the community, what you're doing in your careers. But who inspires you?
Well, I know my age is gonna show on this one, but I chose Rihanna as who inspires me, not because of her music, but because of the avenues that she's taken and leveraged herself from her music platform. Um, for me, entrepreneurship is definitely something that I'm interested in, of course. So for her to take music as her platform and then branch off into the areas of cosmetics and fashion, and just that exposure alone, she used it as a stepping stool. So to me, that's something that I'm all about. Like if I'm surrounding myself around a circle of people that are elevating, then I need to catch up with them, and I feel like she put herself in that position. So that's why I'm inspired by her. She is one of the top grossing females now for her entrepreneurial goals. She's $1.4 billion net worth. Like, that's inspirational. Of course, money is not going to be my driving force, but just her passion and effort to collaborate with other companies to make her things successful. She puts it as a priority for her. And then I also admire her privacy within all of that. She's
Mm.
like, I know y'all want an album, but I'm not going to give you an album because I want to do this. I'm going to do my cosmetics, and I admire that. Yeah.
What about you, Kara?
So it's a little different for me. So instead of saying who inspires me, it's really what inspires me. And for me, it's breaking generational curses, allowing my daughter to experience things that I wish that I would have been able to experience, allowing children and other parents, empowering them to be intentional with improving their qualities of lives, advocating for themselves, just being the best versions of themselves. That's really where my inspiration comes from, not wanting to repeat patterns that basically keep us bound, and that's what motivates me. I just want to be the best version of myself, and I want to help people around me be the best version of themselves.
Right.
So Kara and I, we worked in one of the same settings, and for me, she was one of I think maybe the second Black, speech therapist that I had really come in contact with, and I really admired her for her professionalism. Right, like when I first worked with her, I was like, I don't know about her because she comes in here, she is so, she is just like, so cut and dry. Of course, I
Mhm.
got to know her, and we could let our hair down, some and be ourselves. But the fact that you said that because I was going to ask that question. Kara's taking all my questions. I was going to ask the who and the what. So I'm going to still make Kara asking her who, and then I'm going to go back and have Shekina talk about her what. And they could be the same. But we have to get ourselves into those spaces where we can make a difference. And so it's amazing that we take our skills and listen to you guys. We take our skills, we take our passion. We don't just keep it for ourselves, but you guys are starting to deposit those things into the community, into the atmosphere, to break those generational curses. Having this conversation right now is part of breaking this generational curse. Maybe 3 years from now, 2 weeks from now, there's going to be some young person that's going to happen upon this video, right? And they're going to say, I was listening and Shekina said, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity, right? Or, Kara said, I'm going to give back to my community. And that's how we break those generational curses. It only takes one person to do it, right? And then the next generation or that next person, they'll see what we're doing different, and they will know that it's okay, right? Because sometimes we just have to see that it's okay, because when everybody else around you, when they're doing something different and you're trying to figure out how to be yourself, and you're scared
Mm.
about being yourself because it makes you the odd person out.
Mhm.
um, but when you see that one person in your family, it just takes that one person in your family to do something different, those generational curses start to break. So Shekina, what is your what motivates you?
I would definitely have to say generational curses as well. I mean, there were things that my family did that I watched. I was the youngest on my dad's side, and I'm one of the oldest on my mom's side as far as our immediate family. But things that I saw that I didn't want for myself, or things that they told me, don't do it this way, kind of make sure you do it a little different. So for me, I was always, I think it's in me to go a little bit against the grain anyway, but I was always going against the grain. Things that my mom didn't think I would do, like I was very reserved as a younger child. So things that she didn't think I would do, I would do it, and I would do it. And it would be like an out of body experience for me, but I knew I wanted to do it. It's just, something, that driving force that was in me. So what inspires me is definitely to be different, and to set a new standard for the family. But I'm,
Mm.
I'm not going to put so much pressure on myself to do that. It's just things that I know, like, we just didn't expose ourselves to. So maybe I need to research that. Let me look that
Mhm.
up. So that's my driving force.
Kara, I'm coming back to your who. And if you don't have a who, that's okay. I know sometimes we have mentors or we have people that we see, and it's okay if you don't.
I do. I have some, but that what is really has always been my driving force, to be honest. Like just surviving and moving from a transitioning from a space of surviving and then into thriving and being
Mm-hmm.
intentional with um just developing myself professionally, emotionally, spiritually. But as far as
Mhm.
the who, which would be like a second motivator, there have been several women along the way, several Black women who have loved on me, who have mothered me. Um, Outside of my mother, who is the first in primary, just seeing how she just overcame so much, and she worked hard and she did whatever it is that she had to do to make sure that my brother and I, had what we needed. But just in a professional sense, there's always been mother figures in the realm, big sisters like Joe Shalon or Don,
Mhm.
another person who has worked with us. Some of the administrators when I was in the school system, some of my special ed colleagues, and church mothers just poured into me and inspired me and just giving me, I guess, a model of what it meant to be a woman in womanhood and how to navigate through the world, how to think like one, how to present myself as one, how to navigate through adversity. Um,
Mhm.
and then even in high school, going back to my ninth grade teacher, Miss Vanessa Bond.
She know these
I know
names, don't she,
names now.
Shekina?
Know some names, but
Yeah.
Miss Vaughn was my ninth grade teacher, and she was also she was a woman of Delta. Even back to my eighth grade teacher, Miss Morgan, who was a phenomenal teacher, who connected with us, who loved on us, and she was also a Delta. That was my inspiration to want
Right.
to do that, and knowing I'm going to college one day because I want to be whatever she is.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So those kinds of women. Miss Johnson, another teacher of mine, who's Virginia State University graduate, HBCU, who
Mhm.
gave us opportunities. Some of mine, another classmate, a best friend of mine from high school, just exposing us to what it means to be like a debutante and etiquette and, fundraising, the art of conversation, those types of things, who just believed in us. And um, Miss Young, also from high school, who's also a
Mhm.
Delta. I'm gonna plug that in
Listen,
there. But
Shekina, she didn't know any who right when we started, and look at her.
of course, But these are women who along the way have been great models for me.
Mhm.
And just let me know that, I can achieve it, I can do it. Gave me pep talks. I would go to Miss Bond's room and help her grade papers, doing like my planning, doing your I don't know what is it, like homeroom or something like
Yeah,
that,
like
or
their planning period.
like kind
Yeah.
of like period. And she would just pour into me, and I just, I'm thankful for those women who poured into me just about life and
Right.
letting me know that you're not your childhood, you're not your trauma,
Mm.
you can overcome. So
Mhm.
That was good. You are not your childhood. I love that. And I often think about, right, because I always want to be the inspiration, right? Like I always want to be the person that's inspiring someone and motivating someone. But we have to know that the motivator, right, even though we're motivators and we're encouragers and we're givers, that we need that same feedback, right? And so
Mhm.
sometimes we think back like, I don't know who's really motivated me because I'm always doing it. But I want to make sure that we are opening ourselves up to
Mhm.
receive everything that we're giving as well, right? And it may not always look the same way, but we want to give ourselves grace and we want to open ourselves up, because the more we allow those appropriate people to pour into us, that's
Mhm.
how we're going to stay full, right? And then that's how we're going to be able to continue to pour into others. Like my mom, like I never knew growing up that we didn't have,
Mhm.
right? Like, and so my mom always, she's my motivator. I never wanted to do anything, to disappoint her, right? And then
Mhm.
we get older and we start making different choices, and like we start doing things sometimes, we're making decisions, and I'm thinking, oh, I don't want my mom to be disappointed, or I don't want my mom to do this, because she was always she was my person. And then
mhm,
I have sisters, and so those are the people who encourage me. And
Mhm.
like Kara, like being in that small county, like we had some Black teachers in middle school, junior
mhm,
high school, and it was like, oh my goodness, like their teachers and their assistant principals, and they would do the same thing for us during the day. They would pour into us, and it was like you didn't want to do anything to disappoint them, because they were like your second parents, right? And then
mhm,
we move up to high school, and I had Miss Wilbur, and there was Miss Spinner in middle school, and Miss Fleming, and Mrs. McKenzie. Like,
Mhm.
there's those people that were pouring into us. And then of course I fell in love with Oprah Winfrey, because I
Mhm.
was like, that's who I'm gonna be. I'm going to be Oprah
mhm.
Winfrey. But the more I grew, I understood that no, I was going to be Joe Shalon, but I
Right.
Mhm.
could do the same thing that Oprah Winfrey was doing. And I'm looking, because Tanelia said, I did not know who inspired me at first. Now, when I look in the mirror, the who inside of me, that is who inspires me, right?
Mhm.
And so that's what we want to encourage too, that we want to make sure that we're inspiring other people. We do want to have someone that we are looking to, but we
Mhm.
want to make sure that the who that inspires us, it's the us, right? It's the who
Mhm.
inside of us, right? Inside of me. um because we want to make sure that we're always making the best choices for
Right.
ourselves, right? At the
Mhm.
end of my Friday night show, I always say, do something that makes you happy, do
Mhm.
something that makes you feel good.
Mhm.
And we don't, as women, we don't have to be, we're giving all the time, but society will tell us that if we're taking care of ourselves first, we're
Mhm.
doing things for ourselves first, that it's a bad thing. But
Mhm.
no, we want to be able to make ourselves a priority and
Right.
take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. So we're
Mhm.
getting close to the end of our show. So I want to talk about legacy.
Mhm.
um, it's important to me, because sometimes when we're thinking about legacy, people think about money. People
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
about, what you're leaving somebody as far as like houses and cars. And when we're no longer in this world, we're going to leave money, and we're going to leave things, right, to our children. We're going to leave things
Mhm.
to the world. Um, but when I think about legacy, I think about what will people what will people say about me, right? How will I encourage and motivate, and push people forward even when I'm no longer here,
Mhm.
right? I want my legacy to be that Joe Shalon never gave up, at 40 something years old. she never gave up her dream, of having her podcast or having a show, because we know this is not it for Jayspirations Live. So y'all better jump on now while you can get me on the Facebook
Okay.
and YouTube, because I know that we're growing. God has put so much inside of me. He's put so much inside of you all. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to remember about you? What do you want to leave for your family and for the world outside of those material things that we often think about?
Mm-hmm.
One of y'all, come
Okay, well,
on, ladies.
something that I want people to think about me is that I've always been intentional. Be intentional. Set goals, whether it's personal, professional, spiritual, physical, and be intentional about accomplishing those goals. If you want, for me, if I want to, I don't know, just being a mother. If I wanted to do it differently, if I want my daughter to have a different experience, I was intentional. I took some parenting classes. I'm reading books. I'm not the expert. I'm talking to my parents, my mother, my dad, my in-laws, my stepmom, trying to figure out what can I do, to be better. Professionally, being intentional. Like I know, I want to help people. Speech pathology is a very vast field. So if my job is going to offer educational training and they're going to pay for it, sure, I'll take this class so I can be certified in something. I'll take that opportunity too, so I can, just expand on myself. So just intentional with how I love the people around me, how I show that I love them, how I appreciate them with my words. Just being affirmative in how, my husband, just showing that I appreciate him. Like they can say that I work hard at it, so that they know that I love them, I care about them, and I'm going to be intentional in doing everything that I can do to make sure that, everybody around me is taken care of, they're seen, they're heard, and they're loved. So that's my legacy.
That's good.
Yeah, very good. This one was a little tough for me to answer, but I feel like I would love people to know that I wholeheartedly believe that the sky is the limit. Um, you can do anything that you put your mind to, and with prayer and guidance from God, He'll light your path, and we will make the opportunities that come to us. We'll thrive off of those. So those things, I just feel like I don't believe that nothing is impossible. I know that I can put the effort toward it, and have the faith that it will come to pass for me. So I hope that that's the legacy I leave behind.
I love that. I really do. I wanted to go back up to one of the comments as we are closing out. We were talking about, we're talking about careers. So I was looking at this comment that Lucy said. She said, once you put your hands to something, you will get the feel for what you want to do. Sometimes it might take a heart searching method, which means many different things that might not be, where you are. I wanted to comment on this, and I wanted to give you guys an opportunity, as well, because this is actually my mom, and she's always taught me to put my hands, in different things, and kind of get the feel for it, because sometimes we'll say, nah, I don't want to do that. Or no, I don't want to try this. Sometimes we'll even say that's not my responsibility, or the new saying now that everybody's saying, get somebody else to do it. Right? You hear that all over social media, Instagram, whatever that video, get somebody else to do it. But then she also mentioned heart searching. And so when I had to keep going back to this comment, because, sometimes we really we have to put our hands in things, and we have to search our heart to figure out why we're doing things, and to figure out what we want to do, because Kara said intentional. Right. Can you guys, do you want to speak to this comment, or do you want to, because, you guys said intentional. And I heard both of you guys use that word.
Yeah.
But not guys, you ladies. I heard you ladies use that word.
Definitely. Going back to when the pandemic hit, I was a fresh graduate. I graduated in 2019. And so that was a major point of transition for me and a whole lot of heart searching. I know we talked earlier before in preparation for this podcast that things came about that for graduating, like graduation, post grad depression, those things did actually happen to me. And I talked to other peers and it happened to them as well, even if they were in a career that they felt successful. There were just transitions into adulthood that we had never done before. We've been going to school up until this point, and now we have to transition to being an adult. So, heart searching on careers, heart searching on what makes me feel fulfilled, all of those things hit like a ton of bricks
Mm.
pandemic. And taking that time of isolating myself, not from the world, but of course we couldn't go anywhere. So I had to deal with those things and I hadn't dealt with them before. So just taking the time to actually hear God, pray, because you can't pour from an empty
Mhm.
cup. You have to have some tools. So that was a lot of, my mom and my dad encouraging me that you have to have some tools when times get tough like this. So I had to go back and read and pray and listen. And I feel like my ears opened up like nobody's business. So I took that and I ran with it. And I'm like, this isn't what I want. So let me just hear God for real.
For real.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
That was good.
That is good.
Shekina said for real. And that's the thing. We have to hear him for real.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have to go back to, of course, me saying I wanted to be a chemistry major. I thought I was going to be in someone's forensic lab and
Mm-hmm.
processing crime scenes, and being in college, just being honest with myself and telling God, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Give me some signs, God. Tell me what it is I'm supposed to do. Order my steps. And I told the story to Shekina and Joe Shalon about one of the actual director of the program at ODU after class one day actually asked me, had I considered going to graduate school? And at the time I hadn't. And to even go back further than that, one of my who's from high school, Mrs. Vanessa Bond, told me when you get to college, make sure you sit in the front of all of your classes,
Mm.
participate, engage, let them know that you're serious and you want to be there. And I took that advice. And the director noticed me. And for him, God allowed him to be used as a sign, a pivotal point for me to let me know, like, hey, let me plant the seed. You need to apply to our graduate program. You need to come here. So in doing that, and something that comes to mind is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you. That is my scripture. That is what I live by. That is just
Mm-hmm.
God's reassurance to me that, if you come to me, you tell me you don't know, you humble yourself, you say, I don't know what to do, God. I need help. I need guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And seeking God for those signs, being open to those signs, and then being intentional and taking actions to follow through to make sure that, you accomplish whatever it is that God tells you. Like, this is your purpose, Kara, not chemistry. I need you working in the field. I need you touching lives. I need you pouring into people and showing people that they too, can overcome and be a success. So
Right.
I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you guys, we have come to the end of our time together. Is there anything is there anything that you guys, we talked about a whole lot, and I know you have heard us talk about the prep work that we put in, but the prep
Mm-hmm.
work is so minimal because we usually just get on our prep time and we try to get to know each other a little bit so that we can have good conversations like this. And y'all, they never know what I'm going to ask them, right? Guests always say, what you going to ask me? Mm-mm. We have organic conversations on Jayspirations Live. So, ladies, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show this morning. I have had a marvelous time just looking at some of the. I'm not sure who Shawan Jones is, but
that's
Shawan
my
said we need a
sister.
part two.
That's my sister, y'all. That's Shawan, my sister, social worker.
Thank you, Shawan.
I mean, it's really been, I'll be honest with you. I thought about it. I said, I haven't done anything for Women's History Month. And, who am I going to talk to? But, again, I'll say it again. Here at Jayspirations Live, we believe in talking to real people having real talk and talking about things that matter. And, I was talking to God and I was telling him, listen, I need somebody, I need some folks to come on for March, really have some good conversation, about women's history and careers and legacy. And I promise you, he dropped the two of you into my spirit. And I started thinking about Shekina, and I just went right back to those masks, right? I started thinking about how she just took that opportunity. And I started thinking about Kara. And the first thing I said was, she gonna tell me no. And she calls me her big sister. I said, she gonna be like, she gonna want to say no to me, but the first thing she said was, what we gonna talk about? What you want me to say? And we just started talking about it. And I said, it's gonna work out. And it's because it's intentional, right? And everything is purposeful. I've been knowing, some folks in Shekina's family, right? But I didn't know her. And then I met her during the pandemic with these masks, and I was proud of her. I was calling my sisters and my family saying, hey, you need some masks. This is where you need, you need to do this. And God is intentional about everything, right? This conversation today is intentional. So I really appreciate you guys coming on. I'm always harping on being, that's my little sister, right? I call a lot of people little sister because I feel like that is part of what God has put into me to be mentor to folks. So now, she kind of got a new little sister. But I have big sisters too. God has blessed me with biological, big sisters and biological little sister. But then He's planted big sisters all around me in my circle, as well. And that's what we need. So I love you guys and I appreciate you coming on so much. You don't understand how much it has really made my heart full. To our Jspirations Live family that's watching this morning, whether you're watching this morning live or whether you catch the replay, thank you so much for supporting us, and thank you so much for spending some of your Saturday morning with us. If you are not following the page, please follow the page for more conversations and topics just like this. We are going to continue to pour inspiration, motivation, the love of God, and Jspiration into the atmosphere. I know it is my purpose and it is my passion. Also, please join us on Friday nights at 8:00 p.m. for Fill Up Friday Live. You guys heard us talking a little bit today about how we cannot pour from an empty cup. And so on Friday nights, we come together at 8:00 p.m. to just talk about what we filled up on for the week. We talk about what we need with the hope that we can encourage each other for 15 to 30 minutes, right? It's all about giving back. I was going to do some shout outs, but you guys, there's a couple people on and I don't want to miss anybody. So I'm not going to call anybody out individually, but I want to tell everybody, thank you so much for coming on. If you guys have topics, you have guests, you have conversations that you want to have, and you want to have them here on Jspirations Live, you can email us at jspirationslive@gmail.com. And of course, if you know me personally, hit me up in my inbox, call me or text me, and we will make it happen. So I love you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. My guests, don't jump off. But you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And as always, be Jspired.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.